G'day everybody and welcome back to my latest YouTube video. Today I want to take some time and talk about something that I believe isn't spoken about enough within the healing, self-development or spiritual space. And the reason why I want to share it is because not only have I experienced it, but I've also come across a lot of different people, from clients to friends and associates and just the general everyday Joe that I cross on the street and the universe brings my way to have a deep and meaningful conversation with. And it's come up for me a lot, so I'm like, alright, I gotta talk about it in a video. I've also mentioned it a bit on my social media and it's gotten some really good feedback and people resonating with it, and I wanted to just go into it in a bit more detail. Okay, and basically it's the shadow element or the dark side of gaining awareness. Now, awareness is a pivotal and very important facet of healing. I mean, you're not going to know what to heal or change and shift within your experience of life if you're not first made aware of it. You know, we need to get out of that stage of ignorance and denial, or just simply being unaware of it completely, to the point of being aware and being conscious to it, so that then we can change it. So it's a very important step, and by no means am I decreasing the value of awareness in this video. That's definitely not my intention. My intention is just to provide some education, some awareness of the shadow element of awareness, because healing occurs in stages. It's not just like boom, you're aware and you've had your breakthrough, you've had your awakening, and then that's it. There's a lot more to it. A lot of people describe healing like an onion. You peel one layer and then you're on to the next one. It's like this never-ending process, and I think it's super important that we are aware of the different layers of it so that we can prepare for it, so that when we are experiencing it, it's not a big shock, or we're not re-traumatizing ourselves, which I'm going to get to in a moment, and we're not incurring any further unnecessary suffering. Now, the suffering, in itself, it's part of the process too, because it's like we become aware of the shadow elements of the different stages of the healing journey because of the suffering that we experience throughout them, to then work through that and transcend that. And that's what I've had to do. That's what I've had to guide my clients to do. But I just hope that with this video, at least, it can decrease a little bit of that suffering, because you're like, oh, okay, fuck, this is what Charles was talking about. I'm there now. And there's just a bit more acceptance towards it to allow you to move through that stage. So let's get into it. Before you begin this journey, you are going to be experiencing a higher degree of ignorance, of simply not knowing where your suffering, your struggles, your behaviors, your reactions are stemming from. You may not even think that there's a problem with them, but if you're watching this video, then you've already come to that realization, hence why you're clicking on it going, oh, I need to take responsibility for my life and my shadows. But when we begin, we're more likely to point the finger at others, more likely to portray ourselves as the victim, far less likely to examine our own identity, and far less likely to acknowledge our own shadows. Okay, so we'll call this being in a stage of just running on autopilot. It's like during your childhood and your teenage years, when your brain is incredibly plastic and you're just absorbing all the random belief systems, even though they may be completely limiting, from the external environment, from your family, from your culture, from the religion, from the society, from the media, whatever information is just coming your way through the sensory experience of your little child, vulnerable, innocent mind. And not only that, not from what you just absorb from the external environment, but from your direct experiences of life during these years, the circumstances that you were born in. You had to make some pretty hefty decisions as a child to adapt to the stressful situations that you were in, and then from that you had to mold your own personality as a way to survive in that environment that you were in. And when I say survive, I mean like, make sure that you had enough love and felt a sense of acceptance and security and your basic human needs could be met. And what this does is it leads to our foundational programming. If you've watched my video on the inner child, what the inner child is, you would have heard me go into greater detail with that. Breaking out of this stage is the first step to, embarking on this healing journey and experiencing your awakening, and then going through those layers. So first we have to go through that, right? And then what people will call that, when you make a conscious connection to your unconscious mind. So the unconscious mind is basically where all that information is stored, where the parts of you that have been suppressed, where some of those memories that you may have forgotten about or you don't want to face, they're there. And generally that moment of awakening occurs when we're just living and carrying out our lives. And clearly, we've got some aspects to it that aren't serving us, and some of these aspects from our unconscious are manifesting to the surface in various ways that are leading to suffering, addictions, emotional outbursts, relationship issues, communication issues, struggling to be yourself and speak your truth, struggling to make decisions, whatever it is. For me, it was going through a breakup. That's when I was like, oh my God, geez, I was acting like a little kid in that situation. I couldn't even have a conversation. But it can be from anything. And, I've had loads of clients come to me after breakups, or once they get diagnosed with cancer, or they don't know what decision to take in their career, or they're struggling to connect with people authentically and speak their truth, set boundaries, whatever it is. There can always be some pretty decent precursor to us beginning this journey and embarking on it. And it generally, it is like a moment where, it's just like bang, it's like a big explosion of pain of some sort. And at that point in time, it's just like we can't keep running from it. We're at that path of no return. I just got to face it. Even from that point of experiencing some pain, we could go down a path of, trying to numb it with various addictions and pretend it's not there. But eventually that, smacks us in the face, and we're like, okay, got to face it. Got to have my awakening, that old thing. And basically what happens in that moment when you experience your awakening is you get a huge surge of awareness, and otherwise known as an expansion of consciousness. Because before that, when you're running on autopilot, you had this real kind of like warped perspective of reality. It's like this rigid view, this rigid perspective. And then when you have your awakening, it just kind of goes, just like expands. You're like, oh my God, I can see there's a whole lot more information that I was totally missing and being ignorant towards and not acknowledging. It's not all just about me, there's more to it. Or the reason why I am the way I am is because of past events and memories from my childhood, etc., whatever. Whatever the expansion of consciousness is, you basically reach a point of becoming aware. Okay, now you're not aware of everything, but you're just aware of whatever you're meant to be aware of at that time. Because I got news for you. The different layers that come later on throughout this journey is you become aware of new things. You become disillusioned over your old limitations and constructs, and they become disillusioned, and you're just like, oh my God, I can see the truth now. Objective reality is a whole lot more clear. Now, great. And as I said before, it's the prerequisite to you being able to know what you got to focus on. And that's what happens after that. Once you become aware of it, then you're like, okay, this is the sort of healing I got to do. I got to heal my mother wound. I got to heal my father wound. I got to provide more security within myself. I got to reparent my inner child. I got to learn. I got to regulate my nervous system. I got to do all these different practices to regulate my nervous system, bring more safety and calm, because my childhood was very kind of up and down and chaotic. Whatever it is, there's lots of different remedies out there to then pursue that healing journey. But the shadow element of the awareness is multiple different things, and I'm going to try and break them as many as I can currently remember right now. Number one is, after awareness, you can become overly self-aware. It's like when you got this awareness, then you place a high emphasis and value on overly intellectualizing your patterns, your traumas, your struggles, and your past. And this is what happens a lot with people that do certain modalities as a way to help improve themselves, such as like just talk therapy. They'll go there, they'll talk about the same thing again and again and again and again. They'll talk about their past again and again and again. They'll become so aware of everything that's happened in their past. And by doing that, it doesn't actually lead to any concrete resolution. It may in their mind, I've gotten over it. But in their body, they still got the same level of stress running. Their nervous system's still dysregulated. The behaviors and the reactions that manifest from a dysregulated nervous system continue to occur. They still keep having the same issues in relationships. And I'm not talking at like a normal human experience degree where we experience relapses and, it takes time to break down these patterns and let go of them. I'm talking like, there's like almost zero actual change in the physical reality. If anything, what can happen is it can get worse when you overly intellectualize your struggles. Because when you're replaying that same miserable memory and you're talking about it again and again and again and again, what can happen is you go through a process where each time you're incrementally re-traumatizing yourself and strengthening those neural pathways within your subconscious and reliving that same painful experience emotionally in your nervous system again and again and again and again. Okay, now there's a shadow element to it. We have to acknowledge that. It's important to talk about it, become aware of it, but we actively have to work towards seeking internal resolution within our nervous system, updating the memory, having a heartfelt experience where it's like, wow, like I feel different, I see things differently, and also actively working towards integrating this profound lesson and wisdom into our general day-to-day life. So our general felt experience of life is improving. Okay, that's one shadow element to it. All right, we can unconsciously value remaining in that new loop of overly intellectualizing our problems because we can become addicted to that negative emotion. It's like I just need to keep reliving it over and over again in our minds. But what's in front of that is like this persona, like, I'm doing the work, I'm going to therapy, yeah, you should go to therapy, yeah. It's just like, but life isn't improving, that's the main, I'm pretty sure it's the main reason why everyone's doing this sort of work. They want to experience some actual shifts and changes in their life. They don't just want to talk about their problems over and over again and be with a talk therapist for years and spend all this money and just have someone there going, wow, that sounds like your past experience really sucks. I validate that. And just be there and, overly compassionate person, not there to challenge them enough to kind of break out of that conditioning. And look, there's no judgment towards talk therapy. It's an incredible, powerful stage of the process that I think is a great early stage just to get people comfortable enough just to start talking. It requires an incredible amount of courage to do that, and I'm not criticizing it entirely. There's just elements of it that we have to be aware of. Okay, and a great person to read in a bit more depth about this, The Body Keeps the Score. Check it out. This guy talks a lot about basically that. The other shadow element of awareness is when we don't know where our problems are coming from, we're just projecting it at others. It's their fault. They're the reason why I'm this, and the world sucks, and all this sort of stuff. We repress these memories from our past because they were that overwhelming to deal with at that time and process. Some people can't remember much from their childhood, and that could be a clear sign that they've got a lot of these repressed memories from their childhood. Memories that you can't just expect to just poke the bear and like, come on, let's have 50,000 ayahuasca ceremonies and talk about my problems all the time and and then all of a sudden like these memories come out and it's like, what? I didn't know it was that. People can become traumatized just from making that conscious connection to their unconscious and like, oh my God. And that's a very heavy experience. So the shadow element of that is people become aware, they become traumatized from what they've become aware of. It's kind of like people becoming aware of like the shadow elements of society. Like, oh my God, you mean that all those presents I got, when I was a kid, all those beautiful memories I had with the presents in Christmas time, were made by all these like child slaves in like sweatshops in third world countries. It's a hard thing, to acknowledge, but I'm saying making those connections with yourself, it can be very confronting. And the shadow element of that is when you become aware of it, you're going to need that space, the right people, a community to be able to process it, right? Because the awareness is the first start. But after that, you got to go and heal it, integrate it, and that's the real sort of the juicy part of the work. So the shadow element of that is people just becoming aware of all their shadows. They're not healing it, they're not integrating it. It's just so much for them to bear. It's so overwhelming. Maybe they're becoming aware of too many things at once, where they should just like become aware of something, work on healing it, work on integrating it, then moving on to the next thing. Some people unconsciously have a value of that too. A value of being re-traumatized, because just like people would jump out of airplanes and, get into toxic relationships and things like that, there's an unconscious element to that where they seek that stress, that their nervous system is addicted to that stress. There's people within the spiritual community that are unconsciously running that program without even knowing, like going and doing all these spiritual seeking, psychedelics, having all these experiences and having all these breakthroughs, and it can really have a negative effect on you if you don't have the right support there with you, or real safe space and the right guidance. Because again, there's lots of loads of different forms of guidance out there. I mean, geez, who really knows, right? There's probably a lot of stuff we don't even see on Instagram. All these little cults out there and stuff. You're going to need the right guidance to actively go and process it, so that you're not just re-traumatizing yourself again and again and again. Okay, so there's another shadow element to that too. And the other one, the last one is, once you become aware of this, if it's too much for you to bear, you can then consciously suppress what you've been made aware of and act like it's not there. It's like that could be really confronting for a lot of people to be made aware of. So what they can do is they suppress that memory, forget it doesn't exist, or try and forget it doesn't exist anyway, not take responsibility for that shadow element of themselves, and not work on healing that wound and integrating, pretty much breaking the patterns and reparenting yourself, guiding yourself out of it, getting the support that you need whenever you have that compulsion. So there's a shadow element too. It's like, you become aware of it, you've had that breakthrough, but you've just suppressed it now and you continue to run the same pattern again and again. Okay, all of these different things that I've just said, I've kept it pretty simple and just said 3 today. We can all experience them to a degree, and it's all very normal that we experience it on this journey. The invitation for you all now though is, if you find yourself experiencing that stage, it's okay, be compassionate towards yourself, you're just a human doing your best. But I would encourage you to also seek out support during that stage of the journey. Don't just think that just because you've got the awareness, everything is going to change now. No, the guidance continues. If you want to get serious about this and you want some guidance that's going to help you through that stage of it, reach out to me. If this video has resonated with you all, reach out to me. Below you'll see a link where you can book in a free consultation with me. It goes for about 20 minutes. This is if you're ready to really dive into this and you want some support. The call is just for us to get to know each other and see if we're a good fit. I have a program called Shadow Mastery starting on the 12th of February. 12-week shadow work integration process. You go through the full process with me and my business partner Mike. We both work with you. We cap the group at 25 people. There's 24 workshops within the whole 12-week period. It's like over 100 hours of live coaching with myself. If you want to explore that, we can explore it in the call together. If you're looking for something a bit more in person, January 12th to the 14th, 2024, I'm facilitating a retreat. We have some limited spots left. Get in quick. You're really going to need to get in quick for that one. I'll put all the links for that below. But just know, awareness is great. It's the first step, a very important step. It's the prerequisite to experiencing healing and integration and living a more empowered life. It takes a lot of courage to be aware and also own that awareness and acknowledge it. But I'm just going to encourage you that it doesn't end at awareness, and allow yourself to continue on that journey afterwards. and work through those layers. Now, I hope that you found this video helpful. If you found it helpful and you feel like it could help someone else, share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be talking about more of the intricacies of healing and all the different layers and elements to it. So stick around. And yeah, big thank you for coming and watching this and supporting my channel and my content. Sending you all much love. Peace out.